There's a strange relationship dynamic nobody warns you about. You hear plenty about toxic people, broken people, avoidant people, anxious people, people who date like it's a competitive sport and leave behind emotional paperwork nobody wants to file. We hear about that all the time, but nobody talks about what happens when a victim meets a martyr. And maybe nobody talks about it because both sides are so convinced they are the good one, the selfless one, the understanding one, and they never pause long enough to realize they are feeding something in each other that should have been starved years ago. I think the easiest way to explain this is to start with the illusion. The victim believes they are owed compassion, correction, comfort, sometimes all three at the same time. The martyr believes they are built to give compassion, correction, and comfort, also at the same time. They meet, and for a moment, it feels balanced, like emotional supply and demand, if you think about it. One provides meaning by hurting, the other provides purpose by helping, right? But here's the twist though. Both are performing, and both are exhausted, even though only one is allowed to admit it. Let's talk about the victim first, right? Not the literal victim of something real, no, but the emotional architect of perpetual suffering. The person who treats accountability like a luxury brand they cannot afford. And get this, their favorite sentence begins with, if only you understood, if only you were there, if only everyone didn't betray them, disappoint them, or misinterpret their good intentions. Victimhood becomes their version of a gym membership. They rarely work on themselves, but they love telling people they have one. Then you have the martyr, the volunteer firefighter of emotional emergencies. The one who dates people based on how difficult they look to save. They collect wounded partners like merit badges. They take pride in being the one who held it down. Even though nobody asks them to, their self-worth is built like a hostage negotiation. If I sacrifice enough, maybe you will see my value. So these two meet, and it feels like destiny until you realize destiny has a very dark humor. The victim opens up with their life history, right away. Not the real one though, but the one that places them in the center of every tragedy. The constellation of unfairness, where nothing is ever their fault. The martyr hears this and thinks, finally, a purpose that can love into stability. They roll up their sleeves, emotionally and spiritually, like someone preparing to assemble cheap furniture without instructions. But yet where the comedy starts though. Quietly, like a bad smell before you realize it's coming from the fridge. The victim doesn't want solutions. They want sympathy on tap, a refillable emotional drink. And the martyr doesn't want a partner, they want an audience for their self-sacrifice. Both thinking they are being noble. And neither realizes they've signed up for a slow-motion emotional landslide. I think one of the biggest misunderstandings in a relationship is confusing pain with depth. Some people actually believe the more someone suffers, the more real they are. And some believe the more they endure, the more good they are. But this combination creates a strange script. One person breaks themselves, the other tries to fix them with the same hammer. If you watch closely, you will see the roles are just reflections. The victim blames the world for their chaos. The martyr blames themselves for not fixing it fast enough. And the victim sees every inconvenience as sabotage. The martyr sees every boundary as abandonment. The victim runs towards pity. The martyr runs towards purpose. The victim avoids accountability. The martyr avoids rest. Both avoid reality. And yet, they keep calling this love. But what they're experiencing isn't love, it's emotional codependency disguised as compassion. I mean, for crying out loud, they are bonding over suffering, not growth. They are building a relationship on problems, not principles. And the reason it feels deep is because they are digging themselves into holes instead of building anything upward. Let me give you a moment that always happens in this dynamic, right? The martyr tries to help the victim solve something. Something simple, really simple, something life would normally solve if you stepped aside and let it, right? Something like, maybe you should apologize, or maybe this isn't everyone else's fault, or maybe universe isn't personally attacking you. Maybe your choices are. Now, check this out though. This is where everything turns. The victim doesn't want truth. They want confirmation. They want someone to nod in agreement while they narrate their suffering like it's a documentary. But when the martyr tries to help, the victim feels controlled. When the martyr tries to understand, the victim feels accused. Suddenly, the martyr is the new villain because they try to fix the thing they were originally hired to fix. And the martyr, they spiral. They feel unappreciated, misunderstood, and taken for granted. They start rehearsing speeches in the mirror like, after everything I've done for you. The martyr becomes resentful, but their resentment is quiet. A very passive-aggressive jazz band playing in the background of the relationship. Eventually, the roles flip in small ways. The martyr realizes they are giving more than they are receiving, and they try to slow down. The victim interprets this as abandonment, betrayal, or proof that everyone eventually gives up on them. Now, the martyr feels guilty. The victim feels vindicated, and both believe they have the moral high ground. This is where the relationship becomes a chess match. Nobody knows the rules. The martyr starts helping harder, and the victim starts hurting louder. Both keep performing the emotional version of CPR on a situation that only needs two adults willing to stop lying to themselves. The deeper the tragedy, both believe they are loving selflessly. But selflessness without boundaries is self-destruction. Compassion without truth is just coddling. And understanding someone without asking them to grow is just enabling, wrapped in kindness that never becomes courage. This is what I think. I think the saddest part of this is both people think they are healing each other, but what they are really doing is outsourcing their emotional responsibilities. The victim avoids self-improvement by leaning on the martyr. The martyr avoids their own emptiness by pouring into the victim. They call it connection, but it's actually codependent economics. Some relationships teach love, others teach survival, and some teach you the difference between supporting someone and carrying them like unpaid emotional labor. But the moment that breaks the whole illusion is simple. It's the day the martyr realizes, I can't save someone who's committed to sinking, and the day the victim realizes, if I stop suffering, I have nothing left to offer. And when these two realizations collide, the relationship finally reveals itself. A stage play where both actors forgot they are allowed to step outside of the script. And if you ever find yourself here, remember this. Love doesn't require you to suffer to feel seen, and compassion doesn't require you to shrink to feel useful. Because growth happens when two people walk forward, not when one lies down and the other kneels beside them. So the real question isn't whether victims or martyrs are bad people. The real question is this: what part of yourself are you protecting by playing a role instead of showing up as a whole person? Let me know. What do you think? I'll catch you in the next one.